Hello, friends. Welcome to Soul Shift Coaching. I'm David Hale. Thank you for being here. There's two types of freedom in this world. Two types. There's freedom from and there's freedom for. Our daughter is getting ready to go back to school, and it reminded me of when I went off to college the first time, even though she's returning for her senior year, which is, can't believe it's gone that fast. But as she goes back to school, it harkens me back to my younger days when I went off to school for the first time. And I was all about freedom from my hometown, freedom from my parents, and treated it pretty much like anarchy, anytime, any place, anywhere. Well, there's no doubt that deliverance, that freedom from something is absolutely critical to our transformative walk. I had it, many, many years of living in addiction, and I absolutely needed that deliverance, that freedom from. Many people might be in an abusive relationship, unfortunately, or maybe many people are just stuck in the past, unnecessarily anchored and tethered to a prior event. Sometimes that we are just simply stuck in a pattern of negative thinking or negative behavior, right? There are plenty of things in this world. Social media, eating, there's just so many things. Swiping, dating, right? There are so many things in this world that can suck us into these patterns, these cycles that we just can't break free from until we actually do something about it to break free. And so deliverance, that freedom from something, is absolutely critical. And it's the first step, if you will, in understanding what true freedom is. And so I will always be grateful, no doubt about it, for that initial breaking from what was keeping me tethered in the past. But as I've walked this path of transformation for many, many years now, I've come to understand the other aspect of freedom, the freedom for something. Right? In my younger days, when I just was freedom from, when my dad coined the phrase, "Sakat, son, you are max velocity, no direction." Right? You don't want to be max velocity, no direction. Max velocity can be the freedom from, but the direction is freedom for. And that's what I've come to understand, that there's incredible honor and respect and responsibility that comes with the other aspect of freedom for something. What do you live for? And what I've come to understand is that freedom for, and it's many different things, but one of the things that it is for certain, and one that has literally changed my life, is that it is the freedom for my future self. It is the literal power. It empowers me to think and speak and live and act differently each and every day. Because in that moment, when I have the choice, which we all do, because we only control one thing in our life, and that's our response to it. So as these days unfold and I just get opportunity to respond to it, and I can choose this response or these words or this action. So if I remember that I'm constantly creating my future self, that I have the power to live as I ought to live. Well, that's the freedom for something. And in the most basic sense, it's for my future self. I am living for my future self right here and right now. Only us humans get to do this. Our cat, doesn't think, oh, well, I'm going to be a better cat next week for Dave because he feeds me every morning. He cleans my bathroom tray out. He's not doing that. We, on the other hand, are constantly living into our future self, whether we want to admit it or not. Many people will suggest the exercise of, hey, write your obituary, right? That gets us thinking about what's going to unfold and hopefully impacts our daily living now. Freedom from is absolutely a critical aspect of living a transformed life. But there's also the other side of it, which is freedom for. Once we get cut off, once we break free, once we own that courage to break that cycle, break that repetitive nature of those unhealthful habits or unhealthful relationships or unhealthful thoughts. Once we get that deliverance, the work is not done. In many ways, it's just starting, because though we will need courage to stop and eventually break the initial chain, we then have that perseverance. So we then have to start walking. We then have to start that day in and day out, one day at a time, 1 degree at a time, constantly managing who we want to be and how we want to get there by changing our thoughts and words and deeds and actions, living in the freedom for who we always wanted to be. There's 2 types of freedom in this world. There's freedom from and there's freedom for. We can have both existing at the same time and in different seasons. But there's no doubt that we have to understand which type of freedom we're expressing at that given moment. And there's great honor and respect and responsibility that comes with who we want to be, living for something. We have to treat it carefully. We have to be intentional about it. We have to think about how we build our emotional muscles as we choose to respond differently. Freedom for who we want to be. And that is the literal power. Understanding that we're able to connect with our future self, that we're able to actually change who we are and where we're going and how we get there. Freedom from and freedom for. It's critical. It's critical to understand these 2 aspects of freedom, because freedom can be abused when not handled properly. But when we understand how we can properly channel freedom, not being like I was at 19, max velocity, no direction, but actually having speed and direction. In physics, that's called a vector. Speed and direction. That's what we want, speed and direction, because that shows maturity. That shows our ability to assess. It shows that we are actually being intentional about where we are, who's around us, where we want to go, and all the different variables that come into play. Because once you truly understand freedom and you weave that in with peace that I've shared about on other videos and I'll continue to share about, once we have that freedom and weave that in with peace, when you add peace and freedom together, properly understood and properly applied in our daily lives, you can't help but reap a radical harvest of transformation. Because as we apply freedom and as we apply peace into our daily lives through that daily discipline, we will always reap that radical harvest of transformation on the other side. And that's what we're doing here at Soul Shift Coaching by David Hale. Go check me out if you don't mind at soulshift.org. If you've liked this content, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel and leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And remember that there is always a radical harvest on the other side of transformation. Thank you for being here.